Hi, I'm Pond Shrimp. This is my first Planet Zoo video, my first video ever, actually. So bear with me while I get used to the camera controls and the uh, speed building in general. I'm not used to it. It's all new to me. So other than that, let's just jump right into it. This is Little Eden. Hopefully going to be a more naturalistic kind of zoo, almost national park esque, if I'm lucky. That is, some of my biggest inspirations for this are Edmonton Valley Zoo. They have a location called The Wander, which is basically a long stretch of pathway, super gorgeous, really detailed path that tells the story of the snow up in the Canadian hills that melts down into rivers that then flows into the Edmonton Valley, which is where the zoo is located. And they accomplish this by having little interactive areas. For example, they have a little playground for the kids that is shaped kind of like glacial rocks and ice, and I think it's a really cool idea, and it follows these little water features that then ends in a otter exhibit, which represents the Edmonton Valley itself. And I think that idea, not only did they execute it really well, but I think it's a really cool idea to have that sort of interactiveness and the storytelling there. And I'll put up a picture on screen if I haven't already. It's a really gorgeous zoo. And I want to accomplish that same idea, but in a different environment, something that I'm more comfortable and more knowledgeable about, which is the redwood forests and granite mountains and glaciers and wildflower valleys of Yosemite National Park, or California in general, which is the most biodiverse state in the United States, which is crazy to me, even more than both Hawaii and Texas, both in general diversity and in endemism, which is the number of species unique to that state. And I want to capture not only the environment, but the animals that are native to California. So I'm going to have the black bears, American bison, timber wolves, for example. And that's kind of the overview of what I'm trying to accomplish with Little Eden. God, that is a mouthful. Getting into the time lapse itself, I want to talk a little bit about the foliage and the rock work that I'm placing down, especially in this kind of environment. Granite rock is the natural state of things. Dirt happens when leaf litter and branches and animal waste all kind of breaks down and decays into dirt. And so that's how it builds up. And on top of that is when you get grass. But grass itself is still a plant. It needs sunlight and water, and under all this dense foliage, especially under all the redwoods, you're not going to see a lot of grass. Most of the time in these big redwood forests, you can see in Yosemite especially, a lot of the hiking trails that go underneath the redwoods, you'll see it's just leaf litter. It's just pine needles that have broken down almost into dirt. And I'm really trying to keep that in mind. I'm still going to be breaking rules here and there just because I think it looks pretty. But for the most part, I'm trying to be keeping this naturalistic. I'm trying to put a log bench together. It doesn't work out, I'll tell you that. The logs are just too big. I do something cool with them later. But back on track, the grass is not always going to be the natural state of things. Something that is really cool is the moss and specifically lichen that you can find in these areas. Moss is a plant. It's just leaves. There's no roots in moss, but it is a plant. It photosynthesizes. It needs sunlight and water. But lichen, even though it's often grouped up with moss, they're not the same thing. Lichen is a weird love child between fungus and algae, which lets it survive in really harsh conditions. Uh, in Yosemite alone, there's over 500 species of lichen, all the way up from the snowy peaks of Half Dome down to the Yosemite Valley itself, which is crazy and kind of disappointing that there isn't really any lichen options for foliage in the game quite yet, which I understand. Lichen isn't really known about or popular, but you can actually see some lichen on the old Planet Coaster rocks, which I thought was really cool when I was playing that game. And it's a little disappointing that they didn't put that same kind of attention to detail in the rocks here. Not that they're bad. I would just personally really liken it if Frontier put. Oh god. Oh, that's so bad. Cut that out. Anyway, back into the speed build. You will see me putting together some kind of building, mostly just to house the staff facilities, because you do need that in Sandbox for some reason. I, oh well, I guess. I'm not the best builder. I will say that right now. Don't expect really gorgeous buildings from me. I'm just here to talk about cool foliage and geology and stuff, which does bring me into the next topic I want to talk about. I've mentioned it before. I really want to go for a look similar to granite with the rockwork here, which is a super hard stone, really smooth. It's a lot of the shaping that you get in granite is from glaciers moving. So you get these really smooth edges and almost like vertical lines across the cliffs from where rocks have fallen off, because that's the only thing that shapes it. And it looks gorgeous. I can put up a picture of Half Dome in Yosemite for an example. It's got one sheer cliff face, and then the other side is a half of a dome. It's super smooth, and that's where it gets its name. And I just think rocks are cool, I guess, and it's kind of hard to create that look in, I almost said Planet Coaster, in Planet Zoo, because the rockwork is all in individual pieces, which is really awesome, really gorgeous rocks. The textures are beautiful, the pieces are awesome, really versatile. However, for the kind of granite hard rock work that I want to do, it takes a lot of effort to really make a smooth piece of rock, and I use a lot of the cladding, but those often have a kind of weird lumpy texture on top, which is, it's fine, it's okay, I don't care, which I guess is just kind of how this game is most of the time. I do love it. I love this game with my whole heart. It's been out for a day, and it's been the only thing I've been thinking about. And boy, do I put a lot of time into it. Oh, I do know that I said I wanted to be including mostly animals native to California. The first animals are flamingos. Don't worry. I'm just putting them there because I'm biased. They're not going anywhere. I really wanted to do them first because they're the animal that I've most been looking forward to since the game was announced in the beginning. I'm really happy with how their enclosure is looking. The sandbox requirements, a little weird. They do still need specific foliage coverage and all their entertainment, enrichment stuff. I wasn't too worried about it. They did reach 0% happiness with their foliage. It only lowered their overall happiness down to about 80% though, which isn't too bad by my book. They're all still happy. They're still breeding, so it's all good for me. I think their enclosure looks pretty good. I think I do like the idea of having a lot of verticality in this zoo, especially with the overhang up at the top that you'll see. I did put couple waterfalls in there, as Planet Zoo YouTube videos must have. I have a reason for it, though. Following that sort of interactive storytelling from the Edmonton Valley Zoo, I want to tell the story of the snow and the glaciers up at the top of the granite peaks of Yosemite, melting down and following one single river from the top of a mountain, flowing down to the bottom, where this lake is where the flamingos are hanging out. So I want to follow that one kind of body of water all the way up to the top of the mountain. And I want to have that verticality because I think it's going to not only set this zoo apart from the other things that I've seen so far, which are a lot of flat maps with minimal vertical changes, which isn't bad. I just wanted to do something cool and new, and I like mountains. I just think it looks cool. Here you'll see I'm doing the granite wall. It looks bad for a long time, but trust me, the moment I put trees on top of that thing, it looks so good. Where was I? Oh, I do want to have a lot of verticality, so I will be putting pathways and enclosures up the mountain, up next to the river, where you'll see a lot more of the animals that I mentioned, like the bears and the bison. I've got some really cool ideas. I think you guys are gonna like it. If you don't, oh well, I will like it. And that's kind of just what I'm making these videos for the most part, just for me, like a diary of Little Eden as I make it to see my progress. Just sounds like a fun idea. I hope you can find some amusement in it. I hope you've enjoyed this video. We're reaching the end of the time lapse. I'm putting in the trees that I mentioned before. A lot of ponderosa pines, Douglas firs, that kind of stuff. I'm using the caribou moss as a replacement for lichen for now. I think it adds a little green to the rocks. I think it looks good. And that's the time-lapse. That's the video. I've got a couple semi-cinematic shots here. I'm pretty happy with it. It's been a day since the game came out, and I made quite a lot of stuff for what it's worth. I'm still getting used to it. Hopefully my videos will keep getting better. We'll see. Thanks for sticking around.